It was one of those mornings that still smelled like night. Bills spread across the kitchen table, coffee gone the colour of mud, my back stiff from sitting too long. The clock said 5:30, but the sullen sky still looked like it hadn't made up its mind. I heard the click of heels before the lock turned. Sharp, tired, not the rhythm of someone coming home easy. Keys hit the counter, purse dropped, sigh hanging in the hallway. Then that scent drifted in, soft at first, then stubborn. Sweet, expensive, not hers. My wife Naomi wore clean scents, linen, vanilla, the kind that felt like Sunday mornings. This one was deeper, like something you wear when you want to be remembered. She walked past the doorway, hair pulled loose, eyes half on her phone. "Morning," I said, even though it was still late enough to call it night. "Don't start," she answered, heading for the fridge. "Mike had us on a deadline. I'm starving." "Mike always does." I took a sip of cold coffee, kept my voice low. What kind of deadline smells like Chanel No. 5? She stopped just long enough to look over her shoulder. "It was a client dinner. Please don't turn this into a thing." "Wasn't trying to. You sound jealous." She grabbed a yogurt, peeled the lid with a snap. "Can I shower without the interrogation?" "Knock yourself out." She disappeared down the hallway, door shut, water running before the sentence finished echoing. I stared at the table, the bills, the pen, her empty chair. The house had never felt that quiet when she was in it. I used to think silence was peace. Turns out it's just distance without sound. Next morning she left early. Coffee still warm, hair still damp. Quick kiss that landed somewhere near my cheek. "I'll text about your sister's thing," she said. She did, heart emoji, should be fine. At 6:30 that night I was still waiting. 7 came. My sister texted, "You'll close?" I drove alone, holding a store-bought cake on the passenger seat like a prop in a play I didn't audition for. My sister hugged me at the door, smiled too long, asked nothing. Family can read what you don't say. On the way back, streetlights flicked in and out across the windshield, and I called Naomi. "Still at the office, she said. There was laughter in the background, a man's voice sliding under hers like bass under melody. "Don't wait up." I let the silence stretch before I spoke. "That Mike telling terrible jokes again?" "Conference room, Malik. We're still working." "Sure, get back to it." Hung up, sat in the dark car, engine ticking cool. I wasn't jealous then, I was measuring. Because if somebody keeps kicking your shin under the table, you don't start a war, you just move your leg. When she came home 2 nights later, it was after 10. She had takeout and a smile that didn't belong to me anymore. "Saved you something," she said. "Mike ordered too much." I told her I'd eaten. She laughed low. "You're always so literal." That smell again. Same perfume, same story. I didn't call it out, just watched her move through our kitchen like it was borrowed space. The first crack wasn't the scent, or the lies, or even the laughter on the phone. It was realizing she didn't see me watching anymore. The morning after that dinner, I didn't yell, I didn't accuse. I just cleaned, wiped the counter, sorted the mail, lined up spices by height. When you can't control a person, you start controlling the space. That's how I grew up. My mama used to say cleaning was a prayer for clarity. By noon, the house looked like a man was trying to erase doubt with Lysol. Then I went to the hardware store and bought a whiteboard. Medium-sized, magnetic, clean corners. Picked up black, blue and red markers too. The guy at the register said, "Kids project?" I said, "No, grown-ups." When Naomi came home that evening, the board was on the wall by the door, straight centred. My column on the left in blue. Work hours, gym time, family stuff. Hers on the right in red, if she wanted to add it. Shared plans down the middle in black. Clean system, no guessing. She stopped mid-stride, staring like I had hung a painting of my ego. "What's that supposed to be?" "Clarity," I said. "If you add late nights, put them up there by noon. If I'm making dinner, I'll make one portion. If I'm at the shop, I won't wait on you. That's dramatic. It's adult." She laughed, short and sharp. "So you're punishing me with a marker?" "Think of it as a weather report," I told her. "Dress for the storm you're bringing." She rolled her eyes but picked up the red marker, uncapped it slow. Thursday late, Friday late, sat on call. Each word tight, neat. Then she looked over her shoulder. "Happy?" "Ecstatic." I set the marker back in its tray. Later that night she tried to turn it into a joke. "Next you'll post a scoreboard. Naomi versus Mike." I didn't laugh. "Not keeping score, just keeping records." She went quiet for a second. "You really hate that he pushes me, don't you?" I don't like that my wife acts like I'm a placeholder for when the office goes dark. Maybe if you had more going on you wouldn't notice so much. Maybe if you had less to hide you wouldn't mind transparency. Her lips tightened, but she didn't answer. She just walked off, heels tapping like a timer counting down what was left of our patience. After she was gone, I stood in front of the board again. 3 lines of ink and a lot of truth. For the first time in months, I could see our pattern in colour. My blue shrinking, her red stretching across the week like a fever. Didn't need an argument to prove anything. The markers were doing the talking. Over the next days, I stuck to the system. 1-portion meals, laundry separates, alarm set for earlier shifts. It wasn't spite, it was structure. If I couldn't fix us, I could at least tighten my own bolts. By Friday, the house had a different tempo, less waiting, more doing. When she walked past that board, she didn't smirk anymore. She just checked the colours like a forecast. Storm's still coming, but at least I had an umbrella now. Friday night rolled in slow, the kind that hums through the city like an old song you can't name. I didn't want to go home straight from work, not to that whiteboard and the red streaks that already looked like warning lights. So I drove down to Wh0re's, a small corner bar with a jukebox older than half the regulars and a bartender who remembered your drink if you tipped like you meant it. The neon sign out front flickered between Wh0re's and A's, like the place was too tired to finish saying its own name. Inside, the air was thick with smoke, fry grease, and slow jazz bleeding from a dusty speaker. It was half full, just enough noise to hide in. Dave was already there, his rail yard uniform half unzipped, sleeves rolled. Big man, quiet eyes, built like a wall that's seen every storm and stayed standing. He nodded when I walked in, raised his glass. "Malik," he said, voice low, easy. "You look like you've been chewing on metal." Something like that. I sat, ordered a whiskey. Neat. No ice, no garnish, just heat. We talked about work first, safe ground, brake pads over time, tools breaking, same old rhythm. Then, like he always does, Dave eased toward the real question without saying it. "She's still working late?" he asked. "Board says so," he chuckled. "You really got a board?" "Helps me see the pattern, keeps things straight." He leaned back, eyes half amused. "You tracking your marriage like inventory now?" "Feels like I'm the only one even trying to balance it." Dave nodded, took a slow sip. "Man, sometimes you try to keep things level, but if one side keeps stacking bricks, all you're building is wall." I smiled without humour. Guess I'm just measuring how high it's getting. He studied me for a while like he could see more than I was saying. "You sound calm. Too calm. Got tired of being the fool who shouts into an echo. I'm done guessing. I'm watching." He set his glass down. "You don't got to prove nothing to her, Malik. Or to Mike, whoever that is. You just got to decide what's worth your peace." I didn't answer right away. The bartender slid another drink my way. Dave nodded for his refill. The jazz shifted. An old Coltrane riff, soft and slow. "You ever noticed," Dave said, "how some people turn marriage into an audition? You keep performing hoping they clap, but they never asked for a show, they just like the stage lights on them." I turned that over in my head, staring at the amber in my glass. Feels like I'm in a scene I didn't agree to. He smiled a little, the kind of smile that holds weight. "Then change the venue, brother. You don't fight for a part in somebody else's play. You write your own scene somewhere else." That hit different. Not as advice, but as truth. Like he'd just handed me a key I didn't know I needed. For a while we sat quiet, just the hum of the bar around us. Laughter from a corner table, a pool cue cracking, the sizzle of fries hitting oil. I felt the air loosen in my chest for the first time in weeks. No tension, no perfume, no clock ticking, just space to breathe. Dave finished his drink and looked at me. "You okay with where it leads?" I thought about it. The whiteboard, the laughter through the phone, the way Naomi smiled like nothing was wrong. "I'm okay with not being a doormat," I said finally. He tipped his glass. "Then that's the first right move." When I left Wh0re's, the air outside was heavy and cool. Neon from the sign bled red across the hood of my truck. I stood there for a second, letting the night settle on me. Inside my pocket, my phone buzzed once, her name on the screen. I didn't pick up. Driving home, I realised I didn't feel angry, just empty in a way that made sense, like the noise had finally stopped, and all that was left was me, a man with a board and a line he wasn't willing to let anyone cross again. It happened the next Wednesday, a night that smelled like rain that never came. I'd just finished fixing the brake light on my truck when I saw Naomi's car pull up, headlights cutting across the front yard. I figured she'd come in tired, maybe drop her bag, hit the shower like always. Instead, the door swung open, and a rush of voices spilled in, laughing, talking too loud for late evening. "Hey, don't freak out," she called from the hall, already half inside. "We just need to run some numbers." We. That word. My stomach knew before my head did. Then they came in behind her, 3 of them carrying laptops and attitude. 2 women I'd never seen and 1 man. He was tall, sleeves rolled to the elbows, smile too bright to be polite. "This your husband?" the tall one asked, sticking out his hand. "Evan?" "Yeah," I said, shaking it once short. "House rules, shoes off, laptops stay on the table, and 10 o'clock lights out." He chuckled like I'd told a joke. "You run a tight ship." "I run my home." Naomi gave me that side-eye that said I was embarrassing her in front of her little audience. "Babe, relax. It's just a quick session. Mike's asking for revisions before morning." "Cool," I said. "Kitchen table's clear, water's in the fridge, 10 o'clock. They all set up, screens lighting the room like mini spotlights, fingers clacking on keyboards. I sat at the counter with my own laptop, pretending to read invoices, watching the reflections in the black of the window. Evan had one of those laughs that bounced off walls. Every time Naomi smiled at something he said, my chest got tighter. It wasn't rage. It was that quiet, cold burn you get when someone trespasses in your peace. "You okay with us making a little noise?" one of the women asked, sweet voice, fake smile. "Long as it stops at 10? "Sure thing," she said. Evan leaned back in his chair, stretching, catching my eye like he was testing me. "You jealous of the hours, man?" "Jealous of sloppy boundaries," I said. He grinned. "Not ours, though." Naomi cut him a look, quick, sharp. "Focus, Evan." But the damage was done. They laughed anyway, like the whole room had an inside joke about me. I didn't move, didn't raise my voice, just watched the clock. At exactly 9:59, I closed my laptop, stood up and said, 10 o'clock. Evan smirked. "Seriously?" "Seriously." Naomi exhaled loud, annoyed. "Can we please finish this? It's important." "You're done for tonight," I said, stacking their folders. "I don't run an after-hours co-working space." She whispered something to Evan I couldn't hear, but he laughed again. That laugh was gasoline. I didn't take the bait, just opened the door and waited. They filed out, still talking under their breath. Naomi lingered last, anger flashing in her eyes. "Did you really have to kick out my team?" "I didn't kick anyone. I ended a meeting in my kitchen on my time." "God, Malik, you're impossible. Or maybe just consistent." She grabbed her bag like she might swing it. "I'll be late," she said, and it sounded like a dare. "Put it on the board," I answered. The door slammed. I stood there for a long time, letting the silence crawl back in. The hum of the fridge, the ticking clock, the faint smell of her perfume mixing with takeout. My house didn't feel like mine anymore. That night, I sat at the table she'd turned into her office and ran my hand across the surface. Cool, smooth, quiet again, but not the same. Something about that night stuck like grit under a fingernail. I'd drawn the line, but she'd already stepped over it with company shoes. When I finally turned off the lights, I looked at the whiteboard by the door. My blue column sat neat, predictable. Her red streaks bled across the week like scratches. That's when I realized I hadn't lost my temper. I'd lost my territory. And from that moment on, I promised myself one thing. I wouldn't fight for space anymore. I'd take it back like a grown man, quietly, piece by piece, until the whole damn house belonged to me again. Friday came with that slow, heavy light that creeps through blinds like it's testing if you're still home. The board by the door was already marked in red. Late, scribbled 3 times in a row, like a warning label I couldn't unsee. I'd stopped asking when she'd be back. Patterns speak louder than promises. That afternoon I stayed at the shop a little longer, fixing a neighbour's radiator. Grease and metal had a way of keeping me honest. Machines don't lie, they just break in front of you. Around 7 my phone buzzed. Naomi. I wiped my hands on a rag before answering. "Hey!" She didn't even let me finish the word before she burst out breathless. "I got it! Senior account lead, Malik. They just told me I'm moving up." For a second I heard the version of her from years ago, the one who used to call me first when anything good happened. The joy in her voice was real, loud, full of light, and still, behind it, something in me didn't move. "That's big," I said. "Congratulations. I can't even breathe," she kept going. It's more money, bigger clients, all that time finally paid off. That's good news, baby, really. I meant it, or tried to. Then came the pause, the one I knew too well, the part where excitement turns into obligation. So listen, she said, voice dipping. They want to roll this out tonight, like a quick meet with Mike and the directors. It's kind of a big deal. I can't really leave yet. There it was. Celebration cancelled before it began. I leaned against the workbench, phone wedged between shoulder and ear, eyes on the floor. We could still grab dinner later, maybe someplace quiet, just to toast it. I wish I could, she said. It's going to be a late one. Silence stretched. I could hear the hum of office lights on her end, laughter in the background, low, masculine, familiar. That's fine, I said finally. Congratulations again. You sound weird, she said. I sound like a husband who suggested dinner and got bumped for fluorescent lights. She exhaled through her nose. You don't understand how big this is. I understand choices, I told her. That's cheap, Malik. It's true. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't need to. Just let the quiet hang there until she filled it with work talk. Numbers, projections, how proud everyone was. I let her finish, then said, Enjoy the night shift, and ended the call gently. After that, I just stood there, phone still warm in my hand, the sound of her voice fading into the hum of the shop. The street outside was half lit, the air thick with dust and motor oil. Somewhere down the block, a kid laughed, free in a way I hadn't been in months. I locked up, drove home slow, radio off. The house met me with its usual silence, the kind that doesn't comfort, only reminds. I poured a drink, didn't taste it. Sat at the kitchen table, same spot, same chair. The whiteboard stared back at me from the wall, her red streaks glowing in the lamplight like open cuts. That's when it clicked, Bamadio. She hadn't just moved up at work. She'd moved on emotionally, quietly. And I was the last one clocking in for a shift that ended weeks ago. There was no big fight, no tears, no scene, just that moment when you realise someone's joy doesn't include you anymore. And it's not anger that hits first. It's the emptiness that comes after. The space between congratulations and goodbye. By Monday, the noise inside my head had gone quiet in that dangerous way, like the silence right before a storm hits. I'd run out of arguments, out of excuses to give her, and mostly out of energy. The whiteboard by the door was still full of red lines, her colour, her schedule, her rules. Every mark looked like a scratch across something that used to be ours. I didn't want another fight. I wanted facts. So after work, I pulled my truck into the far end of a grocery store parking lot, the one spot where the cameras didn't reach. I called a number I'd gotten months back from a contractor friend who'd gone through a bad separation. He said, If you ever need eyes, call Alvarez. The phone rang twice, then a voice, calm and dry. This is Alvarez. Name's Malik Reed, I said. I got a situation I need handled. He didn't ask what kind, just said, Where you want to meet? We settled on a diner off the highway. 20 minutes later, I saw him through the windshield. A man in his 50s, short, sharp suit that didn't quite fit, eating fries like he didn't care about salt. I walked over, sat across from him, didn't bother ordering. Tell me what you need, he said. No theatrics, I answered. Just facts, places, times, who she's with. If there's dinner, note dinner. If there's a ride home, note the address. If there's contact that looks like more than work, take a picture, but you don't talk to her. Ever. He nodded slowly, eyes flat like glass. You want surveillance only. Discreet. Got it. I'm not trying to start a war, I said. Just trying to know which side of the line I'm standing on. He cracked a small grin. That's usually shorter work than people expect. I slid him an envelope, half the payment up front, the rest on delivery. He didn't count it, just pocketed it like it was routine. You'll get reports every 3 days, he said. If it's clean, you'll know. If it's dirty, you'll really know. The way he said it, calm, almost bored, told me he'd seen this story 100 times, and none of them ended in fairy tales. When I left, the night had settled thick over the parking lot. I sat behind the wheel, engine off, hands gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles ached. It wasn't rage that hit me, it was relief. For the first time in weeks, I didn't have to guess. I'd outsourced the guessing. On the drive home, I noticed how everything looked sharper. The stoplights, the cracks in the pavement, the reflections in the glass. Truth does that. It sharpens the edges before it cuts. At home, Naomi was already asleep. I didn't wake her. Just walked past her shoes in the hallway, the same pair from the night she'd come home smelling like someone else's compliments. In the kitchen, I opened the fridge, took out a beer and stood by the whiteboard. My blue mark still neat, solid, her red ones bleeding together. For the first time I didn't erase, didn't edit, just looked. That board had started as a tool for order. Now it was a crime scene, each red mark a potential clue. I took a sip, cold and bitter. This wasn't about emotion anymore. It was inventory, dates, data, timelines. I wasn't going to drown in maybe. When the phone buzzed with a message from Wh0re later that week, starting tonight, I just typed back, keep it clean. No theatrics, just facts. It was raining the night Wh0re called, the kind of steady, patient rain that turns the whole world into background noise. I was closing up the shop when my phone buzzed. Got what you asked for? You free tonight? We met in the back corner of a gas station lot where the streetlights hummed and flickered like they were tired of trying. His car was old, brown, unremarkable, same as the man himself. I climbed into the passenger seat, the smell of black coffee and cheap cologne thick in the air. He didn't waste words, just handed me a plain envelope, the kind you'd use for paperwork that wasn't meant to last long. Collected over 3 nights, he said. Your wife, her boss, dinners, drinks, walking close, then the garage, same address each time. He paused, like he was giving me a chance to back out before I looked. I didn't. Inside were photos, clean, sharp, rain-slicked streets, yellow lamplight. 2 people who didn't bother hiding. The first was at a restaurant patio, Naomi laughing, her hand resting on Mike's wrist. The next, outside under an umbrella, his hand on her shoulder, guiding her like it was a habit. Then one more. The reflection in a car window. Her face tilted toward his, eyes soft, lips parted mid-laugh. Not caught off guard, just at ease. They weren't sloppy. They were comfortable. That line settled in my chest like a brick. Wh0re didn't look at me while I flipped through them. He just stared straight ahead, engine idling. You want me to keep going? He asked finally. Sometimes people think they do. I shook my head. That's enough. You sure? Yeah, I don't need to see them pretend to be careful. I got what I came for. He nodded once, businesslike. I'll delete the extras after you leave. Appreciate it. We shook hands, firm, short, done. When I stepped back into the rain, the sound hit different. He pulled away slow, headlights bleeding across the wet pavement. I stood there for a second, envelope in one hand, water dripping from my jacket, the whole night smelling like metal enclosure. I didn't drive home right away, just sat in my truck, engine off, watching the rain race down the windshield. The photos lay on the passenger seat, edges curling already from the damp air. I didn't hate her. Didn't even feel angry, just hollow. I'd spent months trying to fix the machine that was already stripped down to the frame. When I finally started the truck, I didn't look at the photos again. I just said out loud to no one, "We're done." No shouting. No speech. Just the truth landing exactly where it belonged. By the time I got home, the rain had slowed to a whisper. I put the envelope in the glove box, turned off the lights, and sat there until my reflection in the window faded back into the dark. There wasn't anything left to figure out. Only one thing to do next. The night I decided to end it, there wasn't thunder, no dramatic music, no bottle thrown against a wall. Just quiet, the kind that hums in your ears when you've stopped fighting with yourself. The rain had cleared, the air still heavy, the streetlights outside humming their usual tune. I came home from the shop, set my phone on the counter and opened the closet. Her things were still where she'd left them. Blouses lined up by colour, shoes in neat rows, perfume bottles on the dresser, like trophies. I started folding, not rushing, not trembling, just steady. Work gloves for my heart. I packed 2 suitcases, one for work clothes, one for everything else. Her casual stuff went into a 3rd bag. I wrapped her laptop in a towel, tucked in the charger, sealed it tight. Each sound, zippers, hangers, the faint click of heels she'd never wear here again, felt like punctuation. When I was done, I took a manila folder from the desk drawer, slid the photos inside and placed the lawyer's documents on top. Papers were clean, unsigned, with today's date printed in black ink. I wrote her name across the front in neat letters. Outside, the porch light threw a soft yellow glow over the steps. I set the suitcases there, stacked the folder onto top. The house looked smaller from that angle, like it was finally breathing without her inside it. Then I waited. No whiskey, no music. Just me and the ticking clock. At 10:47, headlights rolled up the drive. She was home early. Rare event. Engine cut off, car door slammed. I stayed seated at the kitchen table until I heard her gasp outside. The screen door creaked. "Malik!" I stood, walked halfway to the doorway, leaned against the frame. She was frozen on the porch, eyes wide, hair sticking to her face from the mist. "You can't be serious, Wh0re," she said, voice low, trembling, somewhere between anger and disbelief. "Top page first," I told her, nodding at the folder. She snatched it up, opened it. The photos slid out, spreading like cards. The first one hit her harder than the rest, her own smile staring back under yellow restaurant light. She blinked fast, jaw tightening. "You hired someone?" "I brought facts," I said. "This is out of context. Some You're holding his hand in a parking garage after midnight. What's the context that saves that?" She swallowed, trying to find words. "We were celebrating. It wasn't—" "You were celebrating," I said. "With intimacy you didn't bring home." "That's not fair," she snapped, voice rising. "Lower your voice," I said quietly, glancing toward the neighbours' windows, "or the whole block's going to hear your promotion story with the director's cut." Her eyes flashed. "You can't throw me out." "I'm not throwing you out," I said evenly. "I'm handing back what you already took." She took a step forward. "Let me in." "We have to talk." "We had months," I said. "I got sarcasm, distance and schedules. Now I got proof. That's the end of the conversation." "You're ending this based on a few pictures?" "I'm ending this based on lost respect," I said. "Pictures just saved me another year of pretending." Her voice cracked on the edge of anger and panic. "You're being cruel." "I'm being clear." For a second she just stood there, her breath clouding in the porch light, rainwater dripping from her jacket onto the suitcase and bis. The smell of her perfume floated in the air, the same one that started all this. "You'll regret this," she whispered finally. "I already did," I said. She looked down at the bags, then back at me, calculation in her eyes, not love. That's the thing about control. When the other person stops playing, your hands grab air. I held her gaze one last time, then closed the door. The lock clicked softer than I expected. Through the window I saw her just stand there, shoulders tight, until she finally turned, lifted one suitcase and walked toward the car. I didn't move, didn't speak, just watched her fade out under the yellow light, leaving behind the faint smell of rain, perfume, and something I once thought was forever. The next morning started quiet. Too quiet, even for a house built on silence. No footsteps in the hallway, no perfume trailing behind, no hairdryer whining down the corridor, just the steady hum of the fridge and the tick of the clock on the wall. I poured myself coffee, sat at the same kitchen table where this whole story began, and waited for the phone to start its own performance. It didn't take long. At 8:12 a.m, the first text came in. "Naomi, you ruined everything." I stared at it, let it sit there on the screen. 5 minutes later. "Naomi, you think this makes you strong. You just embarrassed both of us." Then came the third, a little softer. "Naomi, we can fix this. I just need time to explain." I didn't reply. By noon the tone had shifted, the rhythm of guilt. "Naomi, you know how hard I worked for that promotion. You know what I sacrificed." Then, almost tender, "Naomi, please don't throw away what we built." Every message came like a different stage of grief. Anger, bargaining, nostalgia, all wrapped in the same glowing screen. I set the phone face down on the counter, made lunch for one. The quiet tasted better than I expected. By late afternoon, another vibration. "Naomi, I know you, Malik. You're not cold like this. You don't walk away without talking." I smiled, though there wasn't any joy in it. She was right. I wasn't cold. I was done. There's a difference. Around sunset, the messages picked up again. Frantic now. "Naomi, you're making a mistake." "Naomi, I'll tell my family you lost your mind if that's what you want." "Naomi, do you really want people to think you're that petty?" Then another, slower. "Naomi, I miss you. You." That one sat longer on the screen than the rest. I read it twice, maybe 3 times, and for a second I felt something old stir. Not love, just memory. The echo of what used to be a home. I finally typed one message back. "Malik, papers are on the table. The lawyer's info's inside, be fair and this stays clean. Then I put the phone on silent and left it face down again. No anger, no exclamation points, just a line drawn in ink instead of shouting. By midnight the texts had stopped. The house for once stayed still. Outside the porch light burned steady, casting that same yellow glow across the steps where her suitcases had been. I walked over to the whiteboard, still hanging by the door. Her red marks were fading under the low light, half erased from where I'd brushed past them. Only my blue column remained, simple, empty, calm. I took the eraser, wiped the whole thing clean, and set it down. The wall looked bare, but honest. That was the moment I realised silence doesn't always mean weakness. Sometimes it's just what strength sounds like when it finally gets tired of explaining itself. I went to bed without checking the phone again. Whatever storm she was trying to start could rage somewhere else. Inside my house, it was finally still. 2 days passed before she asked to meet. Not called, texted. Can we talk somewhere neutral? Neutral. That was the word people use when the fire's already out, and all that's left is smoke. I agreed to 10 in the morning at a diner off the highway, the kind of place where truckers drink bitter coffee and nobody cares about your business. I got there early, took a booth by the window, ordered black coffee, no sugar, the kind that burns going down but keeps your hand steady. The waitress dropped it off with a tired smile and disappeared, like she already knew this wasn't the kind of table you linger around. At 10:11, Naomi walked in. Same confidence, different energy. Blazer sharp, heels loud, eyes scanning the room for control. She spotted me, adjusted her purse strap and came over. "You look tired," she said, sliding into the booth. "I look like a man who goes to bed at 10 and wakes up at 6, I said. "Peaceful kind of tired." She tried a laugh, but it fell flat. "I didn't expect you to agree to this." "I don't do drama," I said. "Just logistics." That stung a little. I saw it in the flicker of her mouth. "Malik. I think we both got lost in this." I nodded slowly. "You got lost. I just stopped following." She inhaled, sat back, crossed her arms. "You cut me off. Finances, phone, everything. You didn't even let me explain." "Because there wasn't a version that needed words," I'd said. "You did what you did. I saw what I saw. That's not the full story. Then fill it in, but don't sell me hope." She leaned forward, palms flat on the table. "You think I meant for any of this to happen? You think I woke up one day and decided to ruin everything? I think you stopped choosing us," I said, and started choosing convenience. For a long minute she just stared, jaw tight, eyes wet but not crying. The diner noise filled the space, spoons clinking, a doorbell ringing somewhere behind us. Finally, she whispered, "It wasn't serious, Malik. It just happened." "That's the part that hurts most," I said. "That it was casual for you, like it didn't even deserve a reason." She looked down at her coffee, stirring it though she hadn't added anything. "You really think it's that simple?" "I think clarity usually is," I answered. "You cross the line and I'm done standing in grey areas." Her tone softened, almost sweet now. "We could still try counselling. We're not broken beyond repair." I shook my head. "I wanted counselling the night you got your promotion. I suggested dinner, remember? You picked your boss instead. That was our session. You just didn't show up." She blinked, bit the inside of her lip. "You're really not giving us another chance?" "I'm not being cruel," I said quietly. "I'm being clear." That landed. She sat back, breathing slow, eyes glassy, but steady. "You always did know how to end things with style." "Not style," I said. "Boundaries." We sat in silence for a while, both of us pretending to look at the parking lot. A truck passed by, its rumble shaking the window, just enough to make our reflections blur together. When she finally spoke again, her voice was small. "Please don't make this public. I can't handle people knowing." "I didn't," I said. "You did, every time you brought work home and let them laugh at me in my kitchen." She nodded once, maybe in guilt, maybe in surrender. "So that's it?" "That's it." She reached out like she might touch my hand, but stopped halfway. Her fingers trembled for a second, then fell to her lap. "I'll sign whatever you need," she said quietly. "I already have," I told her. "All that's left is yours." When she left, she didn't look back, just the echo of heels fading out the door, blending into the sound of the highway. I sat there a while longer, letting the coffee go cold. It tasted bitter now, but honest. Outside, the sun hit the chrome of my truck, blinding for a second. I paid the check, left a good tip, and stepped into the light without a backward glance. Clarity doesn't come with comfort. It comes with finality. And that morning I finally had both. The papers got signed 2 weeks later. No shouting, no begging, no last-minute speeches about love or fate. Just 2 signatures under fluorescent light, a lawyer clearing his throat, and a pen that ran smooth across the wall. When it was done, she left first. Didn't even take all her things, just the clothes, the essentials, and the parts of the house that never belonged to me anyway. That first night alone, I expected the silence to hurt. It didn't. It hummed, low and calm, like the house was exhaling after holding its breath too long. I cooked dinner for 1, chicken, rice, nothing fancy, and ate standing at the counter. No music, no conversation, just the steady rhythm of a fork against a plate. When the dishes were done, I fixed the loose cabinet door, tightened the screws on the back steps, and oiled the hinges that used to squeak every time she left for work. The little noises of repair filled the space better than any apology ever could. Saturday came, and with it routine. Coffee at dawn, a short jog around the block, the air was cool, sharp, clean. I stopped halfway, leaned on the hood of my truck, and realised I wasn't waiting for a text anymore. The garage became my quiet church. I spent hours there, cleaning, sorting, rebuilding, brakes, clutches, an old carburetor I'd promised a neighbour I'd check months ago. Dave stopped by around noon with 2 sodas, and that half smile of his. "You look lighter," he said. "Feels like it," I told him. He nodded, eyes scanning the neat rows of tools on the wall. "You stopped carrying the storm." "I stopped negotiating with it," I said. That made him grin. "That's peace right there." And we talked a while, nothing deep, just about work, sports, the kind of talk men use when they mean I got you. When he left, I stood at the garage door watching the sun slide across the concrete, feeling something I hadn't felt in months. Steady. Days turned into weeks. I didn't rush to fill the house. Didn't download dating apps or chase company. Instead, I built small habits. Sunday mornings, I made pancakes and left the window open for the smell of syrup to drift out. Wednesday evenings, I walked to Wh0re's, nursed 1 drink, and talked with whoever sat nearby. Sometimes I'd drive out past the city limits, park the truck near an open field, and just sit, engine off, listening to the crickets hum under the stars. It wasn't loneliness. It was order. A life finally trimmed down to the parts that worked. The whiteboard still hung by the door, but it was clean now. No colours, no schedules. I left it blank on purpose, a quiet reminder that peace doesn't need planning. One evening, my sister dropped by with her kids. They ran through the house like little storms of laughter, leaving crumbs and fingerprints on everything. I didn't mind. For once, the noise was the right kind. Later, after they left, I stood in the doorway looking out at the porch. The same yellow light, same steps where her suitcases once sat. The difference was, this time the light didn't feel harsh. It felt like closure. I didn't miss her. I missed the version of me who thought we were unbreakable. But that version was gone, replaced by someone quieter, sharper, and somehow freer. Now when people ask her how I'm doing, I just say, good, working, sleeping better, and I mean it. Because sometimes healing isn't fireworks. It's fixing a leaky faucet, tightening a bolt and knowing it'll stay that way. It's realising peace isn't something you chase. It's what's left when you finally stop running after storms that were never yours to calm. It's funny how fast the world steadies once you stop trying to hold it still. Months slipped by like quiet neighbours, one blending into the next. The house stood firm, the work came regular. My peace stopped feeling like a guest and started acting like a roommate. I didn't go looking for her name online, didn't check her socials, didn't chase updates from people who heard things. Whatever story she was living now wasn't mine to follow. One afternoon, Dave mentioned he'd seen her at a hardware store buying bubble wrap. That was all. I nodded, said, good for her, and went back to sanding, a piece of wood. The conversation died there. No curiosity, no bitterness, just space where anger used to live. Some nights I'd sit on the porch with a drink, watching the street lamps hum over the quiet block. There's a peace in repetition, the same houses, same soft wind, same hum of air through the trees. I'd think about everything that went down and realise I didn't win, but I didn't lose either. I just stopped playing a game that was built to make me small. You don't win by catching someone, you win by keeping yourself. That's the part people don't tell you when they talk about heartbreak. They think closure is about confrontation, about one last speech that makes it all make sense. Truth is, it's smaller. It's the moment you wash the last dish alone and realise the silence isn't heavy anymore. It's the morning you wake up and don't reach for your phone. It's driving to work with the windows down, not because you're celebrating, but because the air finally feels clean. Naomi and I never spoke again after that coffee shop. No final calls, no "how have you been?" I left her space unbothered, and she left mine alone. I like to think we both learned something, though maybe not the same lesson. What I learned was this: dignity doesn't announce itself. It's quiet. It's in the way you lock your door once and don't open it again for the same storm. It's in every small choice to live without bitterness. Sometimes at the gym, I see a woman named Lauren. We don't talk much. A nod here, a small smile there. Nothing charged, nothing rehearsed. Just two people who understand that peace doesn't need to be loud. I come home after, cook dinner, eat slow, clean the counter, check the locks. Ordinary things, but they feel like victories now. The kind that don't need witnesses. People think strength is about standing tall. It's not. It's about standing still, without reaching back for what broke you. So if there's anything to take from my story, it's this. Don't beg for more lines in someone else's play. When they stop writing you in, close the book, start your own. Quietly, cleanly, on your terms. Because peace isn't given, it's chosen. And that night I chose mine, and never looked back.